Okay, everybody, it is right at 2 o'clock, so we are going to go ahead and get started with the webinar. Thank you so much for joining us today. We're really happy to have you on and that you took the time to join us. My name is Emily Lakemaker. I'm the Associate Director of Recruitment and Student Life here at the Rollins School of Public Health. Just a few logistics up here at the top of the presentation. We are recording this, so if you want to go back and rewatch it or have any friends that you'd like to share it with, we'll have it up on our YouTube channel here within the next 3 to 5 business days, as well as our Facebook page, so be sure to look out for that. We're going to go through the presentation first, and then throughout the time and afterwards, you can see my cursor up here in the right-hand corner. Feel free to type in your questions. After we go through the presentation, we will read those aloud and be sure that we get through as many as we can in the hour we have allotted. So with that, I'm going to let my my co-presenters introduce themselves, and then we'll keep moving on.
Hi everyone, my name is Lana. I'm a second year in the Behavioral Science and Health Education Department. I'm originally from California, and I'm excited to talk to you all.
And undergrad was where?
My undergrad was the University of California, San Diego, and I graduated with a major in human biology.
Hi everyone, my name is Lindsay. I'm a second year in the Department of Health Policy and Management. I'm originally from New Jersey and did my undergraduate degree at Rutgers University and graduated in 2015 with a bachelor's in public health.
Great. Okay, so some of the things we're going to cover today, you can see here, we'll talk a little bit about each one of our academic departments. We'll review the what our incoming class looks like, the general admissions requirements, some current funding opportunities that still exist for this current application cycle, student life, and then we'll open it up to Q&A. So to get started, I'm not going to read all of this to you. I'm sure you guys have probably started doing some research on these different academic departments. But when you apply to Rollins and really to any school of public health, especially through SOPHAS, you are going to have to apply directly to a department. And you can kind of think of these as like a major. You'll need to, if you haven't started the process yet, you'll definitely want to kind of, this is where I'd recommend starting to do some research. Because in the field of public health, it ranges based on what area you're in. So someone in behavioral sciences and health education is going to be doing very different work and research than someone in, say, epidemiology. So really take some time to think about all these different departments, and these will look pretty similar across the board at most schools of public health. Maybe sometimes the names will be different, like behavioral sciences and health education is sometimes called health promotion. So some things like that may be a little different, but across the board, these will look pretty similar at most schools that you may be looking at applying to. But I'd recommend really familiarizing yourself with these different areas to try to identify what would fit best with your interest and ultimately your career goals. And so if Lana and Lindsay, you want to kind of talk for a second about how they selected their department and what drew them to it and really how they landed in that area.
So I actually first had interest in global health, and all of my schools of public health which I applied to, I indicated global health or international health as my first choice based upon some experiences that I had had during my undergraduate career. And then Rollins in particular really encouraged to apply to up to those 3 departments because if you don't get your first choice, you might get your second or third. And I actually did not get into the Department of Global Health, but then was accepted into Health Policy and Management. Kind of saw that as a great fit for myself as well, and it really has all worked out in the long run, so I'm very pleased how everything worked out for me.
And I chose behavioral science and health education right off the bat. It was my first choice. I really just like how it works really well with like your behaviors and how you learn to work with others in the communities and educate them based on different health things in society right now. And I guess people like to call us the interactive icebreaker group, and I definitely think we all fit into that in our department, and I'm not veering too far away from that. I love icebreakers, so she's definitely for me.
It's the people.
Yeah.
It's the ones that want to be out on the ground working directly with populations. Okay, so to give you an idea of what an incoming class looks like, this is a profile of the fall 2016 class that just started last semester. So we brought in about 557 students, and again, that's across all of our 7 different academic departments. So that may sound large, but keep in mind that your cohort that you could be coming in with, like for health policy management, for example, maybe 80 or 90 with behavioral science, the same, maybe going up to about 100 or so. Global health and EPI are a little bit larger with maybe 100, 110. With bios being the smallest with maybe 25 or 30, and environmental health maybe 50, 60. And our EMPH, our executive MPH, which is our hybrid online, is about 50. I think that covers all of them. I don't think I left anybody out. So you can see our averages here of admitted students. These are the average GRE scores, both verbal and quantitative, and then the analytical writing, and then our average GPAs. So the thing that I always like to remind students about these numbers is that these are just averages. It's a very holistic application process. So don't, if you're not right on point with these numbers, keep in mind that we take above, we take below, and we really look at every part of your application when making an admissions decision. So don't let these numbers intimidate you or freak you out, because we're going to look at your work experience, at your resume, at your letters of rec, at your personal statement. We're going to look at you as a whole applicant to make the final decision. If we only went based on these numbers alone, we wouldn't need admissions committee, and we wouldn't be asking for all that supplemental material. It would be a waste of your time and ours. So we really want to look at all that you have to offer as a student, as an applicant. So please be sure to really try to submit a full profile of yourself in your application, so that way we can make the best decision possible. So you can see our kind of demographic breakdown there. We had students represented from 40 states and 29 countries. I think it was something like 77 languages were also represented in the incoming class, which I thought was pretty cool. We're about 75-25% male to female ratio. It's about that every year, and really that's just par for the course in public health. It's funny because anytime we have an on-campus recruitment event, that makeup is pretty much represented in the room as well. So that's pretty standard. We've got about 16% of our students are international. The most populous of that population is in China, followed by India. And then students that self-identify as students of color is about 40%. So just to kind of go over the general admissions requirement, because I believe that most of you at this point would be in the application process, just to make sure that we're all clear on this. You have to apply through SOPHAS. Everything must come through them. Lindsay mentioned earlier the 3 programs that you can choose from. So this is actually kind of a workaround that we created, because if you select 3 programs to apply to, so let's say, for instance, your top choice is epidemiology, but you're also interested in health policy and behavioral science, you have the opportunity to apply to all 3 of those. On SOPHAS, you'll apply to your top choice, so say that's epidemiology. Once we receive your application, we will then send you an email to select your second and third choices. If you make those choices in SOPHAS, they will charge you the additional application fee, which is either $45 or $55 per a department or academic program. So that is our personal workaround to try to help save you some money. So only apply to one via SOPHAS, and then wait for that email from us once we've received your application to submit your second and third choices. The way that it works is that your application will be reviewed by other choices if you are denied or waitlisted by your first choice. You're not going to really have the opportunity to be reviewed by all departments and then make a choice. It's kind of based on, if you get accepted to your first choice, that's it. It ends there. You do have to submit transcripts from every university you've attended, and that those are official transcripts. So those have to come from the university to SOPHAS. Again, everything has to get submitted through SOPHAS. 3 letters of recommendation. 2 is minimum, but you can submit up to 3. Standardized test scores. You can see here there's a few exemptions. If you're applying to the executive MPH, the prevention science and applied public health informatics do not require standardized test scores. If you're applying to the behavioral science department and you already have a master's degree, you do not have to submit that. And for any of our departments, if you have a doctorate or an MD earned from an institution in the U.S., you do not have to submit those scores. Otherwise, we need standardized test scores. Generally, it's the GRE, and those scores have to be they can be no older than 5 years old. And a few departments will accept the MCAT, maybe the GMAT, You would just need to reach out to them directly to find out what they would accept in lieu of the GRE. And then going back to the letters of recommendation, I kind of grazed over that. I do want to mention where these come from. It really kind of depends on where you are in your, I guess, where you are in life. Not trying to sound so philosophical on that, but if you are coming directly out of undergrad or maybe just a year or so out of undergrad, we really want to see at least one of those come from academia, at least one of those coming from a professor. It's going to set off some red flags for us if you're coming in straight out of undergrad and you don't have a professor that you feel could write a letter of recommendation for you. If you're coming in with some work experience, maybe you've been out of school for a few years, we certainly understand that it could be difficult to go back to your undergrad program to ask for that. So they can come from the professional realm, you know, a supervisor or a mentor or something along those lines. In your personal statement, this is just your time to kind of tell us why public health. You know, it's still kind of a, I say emerging field. It's obviously been around for a very long time, but I think, you know, some of you may experience when you tell people that you want to study public health, you still may get some blank stares or some confusion as to exactly what that means. So that this is your time to really tell us your personal story as to why you want to go into public health. How do you want to contribute to the field? What are your ultimate career goals? Then you'll have the opportunity to submit a resume or a CV. This is where you really want to highlight your research, your work, your volunteer, awards, any of that. And keep in mind, these things do not have to be public health related. You know, if you've done research in chemistry or neurobiology, that's very transferable, and those skills would be utilized. You could easily use those skills in public health. So don't feel like you can only tell us about public health related things. Again, going back to the holistic approach, we want to know what makes you a competitive applicant. International students, there are a few extra steps you guys have to take, primarily TOEFL scores, your English proficiency. Transcripts for any university that's outside of the United States have to be evaluated by WES, which is Rural Education Service. And you have to provide a financial certificate showing funding for 1 full year of study in the U.S. So this is always a popular slide talking about funding opportunities, what type of financing and funding opportunities are available for students pursuing their EMPH. So we do have some merit-based awards, but the application, the priority deadline for that to be considered for those was January 5th. So we're going to highlight today some of the different awards that are still available if you are if you're still working on your application or are submitting it soon. So first and foremost is REAL, the Rollins Earn and Learn program. And with this one, this is kind of like a work-study program. So you can think of this as just as that. You do have to fill out FAFSA, and that's pretty much the running theme for most of these awards, actually, except for the Service Corps awards for Rollins Earn and Learn and the need-based awards and our mission-driven awards. You absolutely have to fill out FAFSA. So if you have not done that yet and you've been accepted or you're thinking about applying for fall of 17, you should stop watching this webinar right now and just go fill out FAFSA or open up FAFSA in another tab and do that right now. It's that important because while a lot of these funding opportunities, you know, you can see there's some need-based ones, there's some you know, some mission-driven ones and the REAL. It's still a little bit on a first-come, first-serve. Like, we're going to look at your FAFSA and look at your application, but those kind of start getting matched up as soon as they start coming in. So the sooner we have your FAFSA form, the sooner we can start making awards. So get that done. So with Rollins Earn and Learn, if you are awarded this award, REAL, as part of your financial aid package, you would then be eligible to apply for REAL jobs. And these are companies and agencies and nonprofits that we have partnered with across the city of Atlanta. There's easily 100 of them, and we've got about 500 students currently in the program. And you would be eligible to apply for those jobs. You can then earn up to $2,000 a semester or $4,000 a year. Students are usually working 15 hours a week or so in the program, and it's doing legitimate public health. You're not making copies, you're not getting coffee, you're doing data analysis and program implementation and evaluation and policy. I mean, it's legitimate work based on whatever the job itself is, and that's one of the precursors to us partnering with an agency. They have to show that it's going to be a legitimate job. And international students are eligible for this program once they have completed their first semester, so they can apply for it for their second semester. For anybody on the webinar that may be an RPCV, a Return Peace Corps volunteer, or an AmeriCorps volunteer, or Teach for America, we do offer some awards there, so you can see those here. And these are awards that are dispersed over the course of the 4 semesters. These are not per semester, this is over the course of it. Yellow Ribbon Award, so this is something that's awarded to veterans, so that's something that you could look into if any veterans are listening or attending this webinar. And then we also have a handful of need-based and mission-driven awards. So mission-driven basically means that this was money donated to us, and whoever has donated the money has stipulated certain requirements in order to be eligible for that. So you can see Let It Paint Whitehead and what those stipulations are. And so those are some of the opportunities that are still available. So even despite missing the priority deadline for our merit-based awards, we still have some funding opportunities available if you get your application and your FAFSA in early. So student life, one thing that I really love about Rollins is that we have a very active student life. We've easily got about 20 or maybe just over 20 active student organizations. This is just a small sampling of them. But they're very active on campus. They host social events, networking nights, seminars,
Panel presentations, community service events.
Yeah,
speakers.
Yeah. It's very easy to get involved on campus. Chances are, so here at Rollins, during the week, from the 12 o'clock to 1 o'clock hour, we have no classes. It's the lunch hour. And chances are there's at least 3 or 4 different events going on, either school hosted or student club hosted, for you to do. And so I think that really kind of helps unify the community. You know, I think grad school tends to feel a little commuter-y. Sometimes you show up, you go to class, and you leave. And it's not like that here. Students come here in the morning and just
stay all day.
And
even when they don't have to.
Yeah, and are just here. We have a lot of space. We have a lot of space on campus within our 2 buildings for students to just hang out. We've got a couple of lounge areas, a kitchen for our students with some refrigerators and microwaves, so that way they can bring food and heat that up. We have a small cafe in the building.
We have a locker system, so a lot of students, instead of like bringing, books and a sweatshirt and snacks back and forth every day, you can just rent out a locker for the year and keep stuff here, which is really convenient.
Yeah. And at various events that we host on campus, we usually have student org fairs that give you an opportunity to interact directly with these clubs. Okay, so at this point, I'm going to open it up to questions. We really wanted, we didn't want to make the PowerPoint presentation of this too long because we wanted to have an opportunity to interact with you guys directly and help answer any questions that you all may have about the program, whether it's Life in Atlanta, the academic program, the application process, life as a Rollins student, how to connect with faculty, whatever it is. We just wanted to provide an open forum to be able to interact with you guys and help answer any questions or concerns that you may have. So one thing that I do want to promote, though, is that we've been doing webinars all month. So if you go to our YouTube page, it's pretty easy to find. I think it's just RSPH Admissions. If you Google that on YouTube, you can easily find that. And so we've got all of our department webinars up there. The only one remaining that we have to do is epidemiology, and that's next week. We've got some student life-based ones up there, LGBT life at Rollins, and we have students of color perspective. And then at the beginning of April, we'll do just our general student life webinar with housing in Atlanta and how to find all of that. So we've got a couple of questions coming in. Ronald is asking, are there programs in Rollins School that will not accept the MCAT? So Ronald, each department does it on their own. They each kind of have the opportunity to make those decisions. Like I know for a fact epidemiology is going to accept it.
I'm pretty sure health policy and management accepts it.
Yeah. BSHE would accept the behavioral science health education. I don't know of anybody that doesn't, that doesn't. You know, each department gets to make those decisions on their own. So I know of 3 for a fact that, between health policy management, epidemiology, and behavioral science. But you would just need to contact the departments directly. And I believe my email should be on the screen. Yep, that's my email there. You can email me directly and I can put you in contact with the correct department contacts for that. So Daniel's asking, when is the deadline for the fall semester? So there's no real official deadline. We say ultimate end all be all July 15th, I believe, but you really want to do sooner than that, because at this point we are accepting applications, but it is as space is available. And so that means that at any point, if the department reaches their capacity, then they could close and stop accepting applications. And at this point, we don't know when that could be, because it's just depending on applications and the acceptance rate. So Molly's asking, on my SOPHAS application, I have 4 letters of recommendation. Is there a way to send only 3 to Emory directly? Anything you submit to SOPHAS is going to come to us, Molly, so just kind of keep that in mind. And you can't submit anything to us directly. Everything has to come through SOPHAS. All right, so it looks like Irene is asking, thank you so much for your kind and informative talk. You're very welcome. And so my name is Irene, and with a master's degree in pharmacology, I am concerned with what will be mostly considered by the admissions committee from an applicant with a different background. So that's a really good question, Irene. Everybody has a different background. So I think that's the really cool thing about public health is that our students aren't coming in, most of our students aren't coming in with an undergrad background in public health. That's still a relatively new, there's a handful of schools that are starting to have that as undergrads, but most, I don't know of any student even that has one here. That doesn't mean that that doesn't exist, but our students are coming in with backgrounds from hard sciences that maybe they were thinking they wanted to do pre-med and then realized that wasn't for them. We've got students coming in from economics, from history, from English, from sociology, psychology, anthropology,
engineering,
all the ologies, engineering,
different languages.
Yeah, various languages. So there is no, and what were y'all's majors again?
I was human biology.
I was public health.
Oh, you're at Rutgers.
Yeah.
And they're one of the few programs that has one.
Yeah.
So really, Irene, the moral of that story is that there is no one right background. Public health pulls from all backgrounds, and it really is going to depend on what department you're looking to apply to. I think we could speak to that a little bit because epidemiology or biostats and informatics and even environmental health are generally looking more at more science and math backgrounds because they are going to be requiring a calculus or with biostats, you've got to go all the way up to calculus 3 to apply, and they're going to want to, EH and calculus, EH and EPI are going to want to see calculus or statistics, something along those lines. Whereas health policy management, behavioral science, global health, there are no set prereqs. It's just coming in with a completed bachelor's degree and being a competitive applicant. So I hope that helps. Molly is asking, what is the average wait time between students' application and their acceptance result? It can take anywhere between 6 to 8 weeks, and it really just kind of depends on where we are in our system and how many we may have in the queue and how many haven't been have to be reviewed. But the sooner you get it in, the sooner you'll hear. We don't have a set time frame that we release notifications. It's on a rolling basis from here on out. Daniel is asking, for global health, are there African countries that professors are currently conducting research? Any other program? Yeah.
Something that I did when I was looking at different schools of public health was really did my research on the faculty and professors who were there to see what their backgrounds were and see what type of research they were doing to see how that would align with my interests and where I saw myself in the future. And I am sure, I can't speak directly because I'm not within global health, but our Department of Global Health is our largest here, correct?
EPI.
EPI is. But I'm sure there are faculty doing research all across the world.
Oh yeah, I know one of our associate deans, Kim Jacobs Areola, just got back, or maybe she's still in Kenya. And honestly, I don't know what the research was. I just know she went there because I was trying to contact her the other day, and somebody's like, no, she's in Kenya. And that's a common refrain you'll hear around here, like, oh no, that professor's in Saudi Arabia. No, they're in Peru.
Especially during the summer too.
Oh yeah.
Yes. So it's very, we have students that do practicum, their practicum research in various countries in Africa. So there's a lot of, if that's a particular part of the world that you're interested in, there's a lot of opportunities to pursue that. And on the website itself, there's a section called, there's two sections on there, one called faculty and one called research. And you can look up, you can kind of do a little bit more research there. You can look up faculty by their research areas, topics, and then you can also look and see what type of current research is going on. Karen is saying, my GRE results are not reflective of my ability as I took it under a lot of stress and I intend to retake it in about a month. Would it be too late for consideration of my application? No, Karen, absolutely not. We're still going to be taking applications next month. I can't say guaranteed that all of our departments will be open by then, but traditionally we're not closing departments that early on. But again, you just never know what something could look like by that time. You know, the sooner you can get it in, the better, obviously. But if you do want to wait until you take your GRE again, you can do so and apply then. But the longer you wait, I will say the less opportunities for funding, because as we start getting our accepted students, that's when we start matching up with funding. So just kind of keep that in mind too. Daniel's asking about the acceptance rate. So we get about between 23 and 2,800 applications a year. And we bring in a class of about 550. We may accept around 1,000. But anywhere between 1,000 and 1,200, and that may sound like a high number, but what I like to remind students of is that it's a kind of a self-selecting pool of applicants. You know, it's the same students that are applying and getting accepted into our program are also applying to our peer institutions like Harvard and University of Michigan, UNC, Columbia, George Washington. So these are all, you know, top 10 institutions of public health in the nation. So it's a very, it's a competitive applicant pool to begin with. So, you know, I don't like telling students that, you know, oh, it's a, you know, 50% acceptance rate or whatever it is, and then giving the impression that you have a 50, because truthfully, it's not a 50% chance of getting in necessarily, because it is a relatively competitive applicant pool to begin with. So I hope that helps. Irene is asking, are all the concentrations open for rolling application right now? Yes, we haven't closed a department yet. So please, you know, continue to move forward with that. And generally if that happens, it's not until later, like after April or May. But again, I just don't want to put any type of guarantee on any of that and then someone not be able to get their application in. Shireen is asking, I think you mentioned this a little bit, but I was wondering about the area around RSPH. Is it mostly students or people from all over? I've never been to Atlanta, so I'm not sure. So Atlanta itself is a relatively large city. I think there's about, the population of the city itself is about 500,000, but then when you work in the surrounding like metro area, it's about 4.5 to 5 million, and it's a really diverse city. And there's around the immediate area of Emory, it is pretty student heavy, wouldn't you guys say?
Yeah, I would say also, you know, a bunch of other universities being here in Atlanta, Georgia Tech, Georgia State, a lot more that I just can't think of right now. There are a lot of students around here, but also I think it's still like a very much so a growing city, and, you know, lots and lots of large organizations, corporations here. So you have tons of working people with the CDC being right here, a bunch of hospital systems. People are really coming from all over the country and all over the world here to Atlanta, but specifically around Rollins, since you are, you know, we are a university, there are going to tend to be more students than in other parts of the city.
But I kind of like the fact that you have a small town kind of feel with the Rollins and Emory community, but then you just go like 3 miles and you have this like large downtown.
Like in the heart of the city.
Yeah, lively place. So you get a little bit of everything. So if you're one of those people like me or grew up just around cities all the time, like I still got that feel, but if I needed to take back a little bit, Emory area is perfect for that as much as any of the neighborhoods around here.
Atlanta's kind of made up of a bunch of different neighborhoods and then the city. So there's a lot of different, downtowns, little areas that all have their different personalities and characteristics that you'll, get to find your favorites once you get here. But I always like to say there's something for everyone.
Yeah. Like Lindsay said, each of the different areas has its own personality, and if you want live music, there's, depending on the type of live music, you go to one neighborhood. If they're looking for vintage clothes shopping, go to Little 5 Points.
Yeah.
If you want more high-end shopping, go to Buckhead.
Yeah.
If you want, I'm trying to think how to describe Virginia Highlands.
Lindsay's favorite
My
place.
favorite place.
Yeah. It's kind of a good mix.
It's kind of a good mix of everything.
Yeah.
Like great food, great.
I would
Very
say,
homey.
Yeah, I would say that a majority of our students live within a 2-mile radius of campus. There's plenty that live outside of that, but most of our students are living pretty nearby. And if you just Google, if you look on Google Maps of where Rollins, Emory University is, and then do a search, just apartment search around that, you'll see.
There's so many.
There's so many. And there's no shortage of apartment complexes nearby. Melissa is asking approximately how many of the applicants are applying to the EMPH program. It's usually a small amount. Melissa, probably around between 50 and 60 of our total applicants are applying to that program. And we may bring in, between 30 and 40, It's hard to say. I think we've had about 35 applicants right now to that program, but the priority deadline for that is a little bit later. That is March 15th, either March 1st or March 15th. So there's still some additional funding opportunities available for that one. So I'm sure we'll probably get a surge in applicants on that one as well. Molly is asking, do applicants need to request their official transcripts from their undergrad institutions? How does that process look in SOPHAS? Yes, everything has to be, for transcripts, they have to be official. It has to be coming directly from the university in a sealed envelope with the seal on the race seal on the transcript itself. That has, generally when SOPHAS will provide you with the information of how to request that from your undergrad institution or from any other institution. It's just an address that you put in. And in SOPHAS, if you just Google the SOPHAS FAQs, it goes into great detail as to how to do all of that, whether it's submitting transcripts or letters of rec or any part of the SOPHAS application. Molly's asking, if I were to submit my application and be accepted for fall 2017, can I defer my admission to spring 2018 and be considered for the spring 2018 priority deadline? No, because we don't have a spring admissions. We only have fall. And if you do apply now for fall of 2017 and get accepted and defer, you would not be considered for the fall 18 because you applied in fall of 2017. So if that's something you're thinking about, you would maybe just want to wait and apply for the fall of 2018, which that will open up in August, usually around August 18th. And so then you would have from mid-August until January 5th to get that application in. But also keep in mind that when we say that January 5th priority deadline, that's having it in our office, not submitted to SOPHAS. So you really want to have it submitted to SOPHAS by late November, early December, because it can take a couple of weeks for SOPHAS to verify it and get it into us. So you would basically have from mid-August until late November, early December to get your application together, which is more than enough time. Irene is asking, are there any graduate assistantships for master's students as further financial support? So we have a lot of students that are working as graduate assistants, teaching assistants, research assistants, but keep in mind these are hourly positions. These are not like state schools. Emory's a private university, so these are not like state schools where these come with a tuition stipend. It is just an hourly paid position. And both of the students that are with me today, I think, can speak to this. They're both graduate assistants for me here in the admissions office, and Lindsay's also a TA. Lana, you teach. Yeah. So if you guys kind of want to talk a little bit about that process, how you secured these positions.
So we have a kind of online job portal that our Office of Career Development runs, which has those real positions like Emily was mentioning before, a bunch of non-real positions, both here at Emory, at Rollins, at outside agencies. I also tell people you cannot emphasize networking enough because you really never know who you're going to meet. But all of the different I guess, graduate assistant positions I've found through emails, talking to people, that online career development page. You know, there's always constantly things being posted on there, kind of just word of mouth, networking with your professors. You might hear that they're looking for someone to help them with a research project. There is always opportunities. You just kind of have to, you know, do a little bit of legwork to find something that you're going to enjoy.
And what Lindsay's talking about is our Handshake portal, and it's essentially like a LinkedIn, but just for Rollins students. And it's a great resource that we have that's off of the career service. But for me specifically, like finding my TA job was kind of like a word of mouth and like a little bit of an email through the department. Obviously, you have to have taken the class, gotten a good grade in it, and or just know the subject well enough where that you can TA for it. There are plenty of opportunities. You can also TA for undergrad.
It's just not as frequent,
Yeah,
right?
just not as frequent, but because you are a master's student, most likely you've probably done very well in your undergrad, whatever that class is, you can do that on the undergrad campus as well. But yeah.
Yeah, and it usually just tends to work out here more often. Like I know a bunch more students who have been teaching assistants here rather than the undergrad campus because classes tend to conflict in terms of the schedule. But a lot of prospective students will ask, oh, could I start a teaching assistantship, you know, that first semester at Rollins? No, not necessarily, because that professor wants you to have taken the class and, you know, probably done well, and then would possibly ask you back for the next semester next year.
Daniel's asking, are all programs offered on campus? So of the 7 academic departments that we have, our executive MPH is our what we call hybrid, which means that it's primarily conducted online, but it requires 2 weekends a semester that you're on campus, and those start on Thursdays or Fridays and run through Sundays. I think start Friday. Those start on Fridays and run through a Sunday, and it's at the beginning and the end of each semester. And when you enter that program, you're given the dates of when those on-campus sessions are for the entirety of your program. And it's then the rest of that you complete online through message boards and video chats and conferencing with your cohort and your faculty members. So that is an option. Keep in mind that the EMPH does require at least full-time work experience of 3 years, preferably in some type of health-related field. So that's something that you could look into if you cannot, if you don't want to. It's designed for working professionals. So it's, whereas the rest of our programs, the remaining of our 6 academic programs, are really designed for students to go full-time as a student, as we don't offer weekend or evening tracks for that. Fabio is asking, I'm an international student and I'd like to submit my application. I've done the TOEFL and my score is 76. Can I submit with this score? Honestly, Fabio, off the top of my head, I do not know what our minimum TOEFL scores are. Requirements. If you can see my email there on the screen, emily.lakemaker@emory.edu. If you want to email me that directly, I can put you in contact with our Assistant Director of International Students, and she can best answer those kind of questions. Karen is asking, I may have missed it, but thought though the application is considered holistically, what GRE scores are typically accepted for admission? Average GRE scores is about a 158, 157 on both sections, on both qualitative and quantitative, and about a 4.2 on the analytical writing. But again, you are correct in the holistic approach. So if you're not right on point with all of those, don't completely freak out. I will say that, with EPI or maybe EH and certainly BIOS, they are going to be looking more at quantitative for that. And so those quantitative scores, they may want to see some stronger quantitative scores. And if it's, we know that some people may not be the best test takers. So if that's the case and you're a little bit weak on those sides, then you just want to make sure that your transcript reflects strong grades in those fields, in math and science fields. So that seems to be it for the questions. It looks like those have kind of wrapped up. We were really happy that you guys could join us today. I'm going to see if Lindsay and Lana have any last minute additions or words of advice or wisdom to share.
I would say, because I'll get questions from prospective students about what's going to make a strong application, and I just always really encourage people to be yourself and let that especially shine through in your personal statement, and really show us, no matter what your passion is within public health, if you can make that clear, whether that's EH or behavioral sciences or epidemiology, really to, show your true passions, I think makes individuals stand out. And also, how being at Rollins could help both you and, kind of now and in the future and career goals. So I would just say definitely put some thought and work into your personal statements. That's something that I took some time to do, and I think it really helped me out in the long run, since I really can't remember, but I don't think my test scores were the hottest out there.
Lindsay totally took what I was going to say out of my mouth, so I'm going to go with a shameless plug. If you have any questions regarding maybe more student life or how it is to live in Atlanta or just any program specific, we do have an amazing ambassador program at Rollins, and you can check out our blogs at RSPH
Rollins Ambassador.
Rollins Ambassador at WordPress.com, where you can just Google it, and you can look at all the blog posts or all our ambassadors. And there's a specific person that you want to talk to more about and their experiences. You can look them up, email that Gmail, and we can set you up with a conversation with them.
Yeah, it's rollinsambassadors.wordpress.com, and the link to that is on the Rollins website, and it's also at the bottom of every email that I've probably sent you all. So sorry, not sorry, for spamming you. Okay, so with that, I think we're going to wrap up. Thank you so much for just taking the time out of your day to join us. We were really happy to get a chance to interact with you all, and hopefully this kind of helped answer any questions or concerns that you may have had about applying. And you can see my contact information there, so please feel free to reach out directly if I can help you in any other way throughout the application process. Thanks, and have a wonderful weekend.